One of the big things, guys, obviously is the awards. Okay, we've got a couple of awards for a couple of students this year. But also at lunchtime, there's going to be a networking where you're going to network with the posters. Okay, so the posters will be up from the third years and second years. So I'll finish in a second.
No, I can't hear you on the live.
So they'll be presenting their posters. Guys, wind me up. They'll be presenting their posters.
Not here live. Sorry, just getting your live feed. I know these guys can hear you, but I can't hear you on the live.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Whoop. Is that all right? Right, we'll try again. Is that okay? Fantastic. Morning. Thanks, Nathan, for the introduction, and thanks for having us here today. Fantastic video. Some of you having a bit of a chuckle there. I presume quite a few of you were in that, in the rowing boat, rocking away there. Sport is fantastic. It's a great opportunity and it provides all sorts in life for you. One thing I will say at the start, I attempted to be a professional sports person, a footballer. Didn't work out for me. At 19, I went back into the normal world, working in bread factories, paint factories. I worked in the IT industry and I wanted to come back into sport, which I did around age 28, 29. I did a degree and then was fortunate enough to get back into professional sport, into football. Message sort of being, take advantage of everything that you've got. What we've just seen on that video are fantastic facilities, opportunities, and people around you to educate it. Don't let it go. It's a fantastic opportunity. We've got a video to start with, just to set the scene, and then we'll explain what today is going to look like from our perspective. Look at the guy in the top right. There he is. Okay, what is today about? We're going to bring that to you. Myself, I've recently submitted a PhD thesis, and I studied Manchester United, 25 years of serial winning, talent development and high performance. What it takes for what you've just seen to happen. The life of these people, how they conduct themselves on a daily basis, how they train, how they live, what they do on the field, what they do off the field. The entire encapsulating body that is that person that can go and perform on these stages. As you've just seen, that football club, the video goes back from the late 50s through to present day. Fantastic success, both domestically in this country and on the European stage. Now, what Mike will bring to you outside, you'll be able to experience a coaching and practical session. Some of your academy players who are outside will actually live this, and you'll be able to watch it and see how you sort of get from A to B in terms of coaching people and developing performance and what's expected in a training session. Without wishing to embarrass, Mike has played for Manchester United. He's in that film, Cup Winners' Cup final in Barcelona in the new camp, 25 years ago, I believe, this week. He's coached, and he's also been the assistant manager. He's won the Premier League as a player and as an assistant manager and as a coach. I don't think anyone else has actually done that. Won the Premier League 6 times. 3 Champions League finals, 1 win, and also as a player won European trophies. So feel free to pick his brains from a practical perspective and pick my brains from an academic or theoretical perspective and get what you want from us. The day is, it's for you. Some of you have come to the end of your degrees. Some of you are potentially just starting this journey. As I said, I had regrets because I didn't quite get there, but sport is an absolute fantastic medium to hook into, whether you go and work in sport or you take it into business or other fields. It's an unbelievable driver for you. So please tap into us. We're friendly guys, we're normal people, we live in houses, we cut our own grass, we eat tea just like everybody else. Utilise us, ask questions, get what you can from it. The whole day is for you, and if we can make you better or pass something on, that's our job done. Okay? I'll pass you over to Mike.
Hi everyone, nice to be here. Some of us eat a bit more tea and drink a bit too much than others. Why I'm here is purely based on my experiences, really. I am not you. I'm not where, I haven't been where you've been. I haven't been a student. No, I hate all this. Right, I've got it. I haven't been where you've been as students, but what I have done in my career, I've learnt on the job, and it's been an interesting journey, to be fair. As you saw a few of those clips there, that wasn't me, the number 9, scoring against Benfica. For all of you there, obviously that was Bobby Charlton, but he had the same hairstyle as me. So today is really about me giving you a little bit of my experience, how to plan things, how to make progression in a coaching session, but mainly for you to enjoy me and to enjoy yourselves out on the training field. My career has been straight from school, really. I started as a young kid playing football, and I blossomed into a professional and did quite well out of it. Like I say, the experiences and the journey were fantastic. Some of those clips you saw, I remember the parties afterwards, rather than the build-up to the games and the game itself. We had real serious parties afterwards. And I'm sure you third years who are finishing now and moving on, today hopefully will be short and sweet for you, and you can go party and enjoy yourself. Some of you going away, going abroad. So we'll keep you as long as we have to, but I know you're excited to get away and experience what you've learnt a little bit, probably in the bars of this place and around town. So, without me saying too much, Dave has got his group, or will have his group. We'll go outside, we'll set up, and we'll take it from there. We probably will, for those lads who are being coached, you will probably see, just as an intro, you will see some rapid sort of things going on. It'll be crammed into sort of 45 minutes. I'll try and talk my way through it the best I can, but you will see that progression, and it will be a little bit frantic at times, but we're trying to condense everything into a small space, just to give you a feel of it. Okay, so enjoy yourselves. I hope you do. I'm sure you will. The weather's being kind to us at the moment, so that should be good. I need to get my sun cream on, otherwise I'll burn. And over to you. Whenever we're ready, we can move it on.
What we'll do, Rory, if you're row here, you'll stay with the lecture, and if you guys want to come downstairs, we'll take you out to the presentation section. Take all your stuff with you.
With regards to the practical outside, there's a Q&A later. So anything that you see, make notes and ask us, and we'll explain later.
Are we sitting?
Yeah.
Hello, Tim. Hello, Tim. Yeah, just before.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, I'm not looking for this.
What I mean out of everyone. They all fucking do that.
Joe, should we jump to the back of that, mate?
Now Q&A in the week sheet. Q&A in the week sheet.
Later on, yeah.
Yeah, this is what we do.
David, Lee's at the top. If you need anything, give him a shout. Short guy. We'll see, Jamie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Twitter live.
Make sure it's on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Make sure it's on the
Yeah. Enjoy yourself. See you at lunchtime.
Can you do a week?
Don't shoo me away.
Dave, how long have we got? I've got time to go for a quick.
Yeah, we're not due to start till 10, so if anyone wants a quick toilet break, we're all right for 5 minutes while I set up. Drink or anything, feel free to disappear for a minute.
There you go. Jamie. Hello, mate. You all right? What was you looking for?
A pen.
A pen?
I did have one earlier, but... Ah, got one. Found it. Yeah.
No, sorry, all that's full. I know a lot of people can hear you in here quite well, but all this does, that gives me the
Don't pick it up
feed
for the recording.
live stuff, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh no. Let me turn it down.
Right, I've got a clicker here.
Hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. That'll do.
This is when we set me up. It's not.
Has it got a dongle in it?
No, they usually are.
It might be in there. Who gave you that one? What about that one?
That's mine.
Oh, there you go. Hang on. Press it. Let's put that one out of mine then.
Right, perfect. There's a couple of videos in here as well. So I'll just, yeah, I'll go over to there. Right, fine.
Just when you're ready on that one then. Leave that one.
Leave that one here. Yeah, I said it'd start at 10, so...
First live done here. So it's like, it's through that camera like that. So it's not anything special.
Right.
Just got the feed off it and spat it out to the YouTube live. So we're just trying to gain a bit of momentum on the channel right now. Lee, let's
All right.
come on, guys, let's get it on there.
Though we've done a couple, and we're the same. We only just experimented about 6 weeks ago, and it might have picked up 9,000 views on the night. And over the week, 38,000 went into it. So if
I'm also videoing off that one. I'm not at the minute, but when you were talking, I'm videoing off that one. So we've got the live one, but what I can do is pick bags out of this one and sort of chop it down a little bit.
Yeah, if I get, I'll retweet it for you. Because if I get it out on, I've got.
Yeah, it's going live now. Yeah, I saw yours pop on there.
Right.
It's actually on this. It's recording right now. On the live. These are your devices, mate. When you're doing stuff, you just go onto Twitter, do Twitter live. See that little camera, that little microphone sitting on there. You just buy them to put on there. It'll pick you up. It'll give you good sound on it.
So where's that?
So that's sitting on top of a little camera. That's, and that's just a little road mic. You get them off Amazon, but you connect into your sound in here. You buy a little packet, you can just hold it, set them on tripod. You'll record it out there. And then you just pick the bank out. Spin it up to Facebook. No, that one. That little mic.
Oh, that one.
Mine. Buy them, they go on any device. They're mics.
Yeah.
So you just, it's like your devices. Use your phones.
Yeah.
Submitted your theatre, just submitted your theatre?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just literally, 6 months in.
Right.
So.
Yeah. External examiners put in place Friday this week. There's still odd bits of tweaks that will be needed here and there because they never stop recommending it. I've done it part-time for 6 years.
I feel very academic.
Yeah, it's there's ups and downs. I mean, it's the first couple of years of getting into it are hard work. You get comments, a lot of recommendations, and it's quite sort of, have you done degree and masters?
Yeah.
I've done degree and masters, I've published, so I've gone through the peer review process. And then you kind of, to one supervisor and they comment, blah, blah, blah. And obviously what you wrote you think is fine in the first place, and then another one will say something else. And put your things in, take it out, put it in, take it out. And then after about 3 hours, I'm like, oh, that's good. And then you might engage with an external in the field who's published, and they'd say, oh, it's really good, that's for it, it's that. And you get to a point where you think like that, the objective here is to actually get 8 chapters written and submitted. We're not looking for perfection for you, or for him, or if it wants.
Yeah, exactly. That's my main supervisor there actually.
Right. And it gets to a point where you've kind of, you can almost write anything, as long as you can justify it, or evidence, or pitch an argument to defend what you've done, and you get to the end. So it's a weird journey.
No, I'm looking for, as I say, I'm looking forward to it. It's only 6 months ago.
What are you doing?
Decision making, so
I've got a bit of that. Yeah, so I've got a chapter on that.
Oh, no. I saw your paper,
Gary Neville. Yeah, that's the one. It's quite a good decision making in that.
Yeah, that's good. Gary Neville's one of my friends.
Right. We features anyway, yes. There's some decision making stuff at the end. It's virtual reality, which helps facilitate decision making. But Gary is arguably a manufactured player. Yeah. When I first interviewed him, he sort of, first thing he said, I'm not the best player in the world, but I work. So it suited sort of our expertise role, 10,000 hours, and then you've got lots of different things within that, which you'll see throughout this. But he's a hell of an interesting character. So
Yeah, that was me trying to write.
just literally
It wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, it seems relentless. You get that ready for tomorrow.
his biography is almost a manual to the football.
Just openly admits that countless times. I wasn't never the best. I'm never the best passer. I'm never the best. Well, I was the best. That was hard work. But yeah, looking specifically at linesmen to try and help them make the right decisions.
Is it?
What's on your side? 10. Still got a few people at the time.
I'm going to attempt a little mindfulness exercise.
Ooh, okay.
See how it goes. Usually I do it in more of a practical area where they can sort of lie down and get a bit of space. We'll try it. What I might ask them to do is to sort of spread out so they've got a little, so they've got their own personal space.
Do you want to go into that now, or do you want to, so it doesn't buy into your time?
So you're going to go
Yeah,
start?
yeah, it's probably as good an idea.
Just separate them out from a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, guys, could we spread out across the lecture theatre, please? So take advantage of all of the chairs, please. So we've got a little bit of space for individual, a little bit of individual space.
We're going to do an exercise, a mindfulness-based exercise within the lecture. So just need you to have your own personal space. You can perhaps get a seat where you've got adjacent seats to your left and right. There's 2 free rows behind you as well.
Jess is front and centre. Don't like being too far away from Jess.
Oh, you're right. Oh my god, my feet's sticking up.
We rely on each other too much after 3 years. That is true, actually. Yeah, it's gone 360. Yeah. It's not funny, is it?
No,
It's not funny.
you were just laughing.
No, I was laughing at something that I thought about earlier.
Yeah.
Star Wars comes out next week.
What, Solo?
I was watching Star Wars with my little lad, 4-year-old, the other night. Yeah, he's got loads of Star Wars Lego. No, he's absolutely mad for it.
Is he a rebel or a stormtrooper?
Oh, he hasn't decided yet.
He's still on the fence.
He's pretty big on stormtroopers.
Yeah, awesome. I hope my little kid likes it.
Well,
He's going to be into Marvel.
They do Star Wars cartoons. It's like a Lego movie. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, no, I have.
And there's loads of it on YouTube, and it's fantastic for getting little kids into it. Because obviously, sort of the big film, you can't throw that straight at them. But you got into Lego, so I thought, oh, here we go, Star Wars.
Buy them the things that can like build. And
Yeah, he's got tons of it.
Has he?
Yeah, we were building a little AT-AT the other day and a Millennium Falcon.
Oh, you can get the Death Star as well, can't you?
Yeah, oh, you can.
It's big, it's like 200 quid. Yeah.
You can spend fortunes on it. It's
Go to
unbelievable.
Lego shops.
Yeah. every time we go out, can we go to the Lego shop? Even Tesco have got a massive aisle now full of Lego. It's a nightmare.
You go for a carton of milk and you come back with a Death Star.
Is everyone back?
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? We're good to go? Yeah? Yeah, we'll change it. It probably would fit into this, actually. Come on. Right, we'll get going. Hello again. I'm Dave Horrocks. I work at the University College of Football Business, which is a football-specific university based in Manchester. We do degrees in sports coaching, coaching analysis, football business and management. It's all higher education revolving around the football industry. So that's what I do now for my day job, and my role there is head of research. I look after third-year students and master students from next year. And what some of you are doing out there, I've just noticed the posters. We actually had that at our university last week. So I'm very familiar with your environment, your journeys and what you're doing. So I thought it's important for me to mention that and set that scene. What we are going to talk about today is the world of elite sport, in particular Manchester United. And there are other examples from other sports. I've tried to sort of stretch it out. As I explained, my thesis was in expertise and elite performance, but it does go into many fields and many genres. There's a Q&A later, and hopefully there will also be some time for some questions at the end of this. So feel free to make notes, ask me anything, nothing's off bounds, but I might not answer it. We will try. Okay, so sports psychology, that's what I do, that's what I studied at undergraduate, at masters and through my PhD. It's a very wide and vast field. I'm interested in sport and in football. It's a two-sided coin. I'm in the world of sports performance. A lot of people associate psychology with health, welfare, and the human as an existential being. That's important. It is important. It's not something that I deal with on a daily basis or have extended expertise in. However, what I will tell you, to become a top sports person, a Ronaldo, for example, it is important that you do have a balance in life and you are mentally well and psychologically stable. So things such as the picture that you see in the middle there, family, friends, what surrounds you, they're key and they are important in sports people's life and your lives as well, wherever you want to go or aim or desire to get to. Without further ado, we will go into the world of performance. And today is about being the best that you can be. Now, what I'm going to deliver to you, you can apply into your own worlds, wherever you're going and whatever you're doing. That could be going from second year into third year, wanting to get a first in your degree. That is being the best that you can be. For the third years, that could be going on to further education or out into the world of work. That might mean interviews for jobs. You can take lessons from this in terms of being the best that you can possibly be. And then we have a random statement underneath there, making mushroom soup. You might wonder what the heck that is doing in there. And that will become clear as we go through the lecture. And I'm going to use mushroom soup as an analogy for the development of an elite performer and an elite person. And as I say, that will become clearer as we get on. So who are the elite? We've got some pictures there. Steve Jobs, Roger Federer, Karen Brady, Beyonce. You can be elite in anything. And the studies of expertise today, they go into the worlds of dentistry, ballet dancing, fighter pilots, military, sport. It's a very wide field. My research interests, I was fortunate enough through contacts to be able to get into Manchester United Football Club and some of the players and coaches in there. I started out through school as a young, promising footballer, played for the school, played for the town, played for the county, various local teams, trials in and out of several clubs up and down the northwest, but never made it. A lot of my friends did. They went on to become professional footballers at varying levels. Some had fantastic, extensive careers. Some of them worked in Manchester United and played for Manchester United. And as I sort of explained earlier, I failed. I went into what we would class as normal civilian life, got employment, got a job, started to earn money and survive, exist. Later on, I started to do the degree because I was fascinated with regard to the difference between me and them. Why did they make it? Why did I not? And then also, when I started to read academic literature, there are lots of papers and lots of textbooks talking about elite performance, coaching, talent development mechanisms. And as I started to read these papers, so some of them you start to critique. And I was picking up papers and it might be, this is elite performance, these are the protocols, this is how you get there. And it might say the sample was 230 collegiate students from the US on a basketball team. And I'm sort of thinking, right, are they elite? Are they Roger Federer? Are they Ronaldo? And you start to read more academic papers. And I picked up a particular paper in football. I can't remember the authors, but it was a study with a Turkish second division side, talking about certain psychological and physical markers in terms of making them elite. And I'm thinking, are they elite? Are they really? Because some of the people that I knew that had gone into the game, I knew that they were behaving or doing different things as opposed to what was presented in the papers. So that's what set me off on this journey. I wanted to identify what the difference was between the people at the very, very top, the people that compete at the top, and there are some people in the Premier League, in my published works and the theses that I've described as they compete at elite level, i.e. a Premier League player that may be playing for Stoke City or Swansea, or the elite, they compete at elite level. And how I defined elite people, I extended a definition from a researcher called Anders Ericsson, who proposed the 10,000 hours theory. I don't know whether anyone has heard of the 10,000 hours theory, but that is that it may take, or it is suggested, up to 10,000 hours to become expert in any given domain. That was back in 1993. Since that, he's progressed. He's probably published 300-400 papers, several books, and expertise has been researched in all sorts, dentistry, military, all sorts of sports, basketball, swimming, etc. And it's different. Could be 4,000 hours in one sport, could be 6 in another, could be 12 in another, could be 13 in another. It's different for different people. And what he ultimately identified is the key thing that gets you to the top is something that we call deliberate practice, as opposed to the amount of hours per se. And we've got further examples of that going forward. So that's what I'm interested in. These people here, how do they get there? What you see next to it, that's Carrington. That's Manchester United's training ground. That is the environment that they live in, day in, day out. And there are children, players, coaches, parents, lots of people in there from ages 7, 8, 9, right through to arguably 23 now in the developmental stage, because the Premier League and European League have an under-23 league before you arguably progress to first team. That's sort of up for debate. There's recently a quote from Nicky Butt. United's under-23s are actually bottom of the league, because in this organisation they will state that if you're not in the first team by the time you're 2021, you've probably failed with regard to the standards that they need. But I'm also interested in that environment. What does that provide? Not just what we call the capital plant and machinery there, but the people that are around them. What are the welfare officers like? What are the parents like? What are the coaches like? What are the scientists like? What's the groundsman like? What are the people, what are the chefs like? Psychologists, the whole thing. It's a big, big organisation. So, some theory, expertise, high-level performance, being the best in a given domain, consistently belonging to an elite peer group. I think that's important because the people that I've identified, they've won and they've won again and they've won again. And please pick Mike's brains on that when you get to him later. That is one key thing that separates these people. They're internationally recognised, so not just domestically, and they display a range of skills and behaviours that are beyond the ordinary. Definition of expertise. Deliberate practice. A conscious goal-directed activity where a measure or an attainment standard or goal is the objective of the activity. I.e., you're not training, practicing or reading or studying for the purpose of it. You have an objective. You start the day, let's say, 10 o'clock, and by 11 o'clock you want to look different as opposed to where you were at 10 o'clock. And the people that have got to the top have persistently got this in them. Every day is a progression. We sort of hear things banded around on social media. Every day is a school day. It's sort of a buzzword. You'll see it. But what does it mean? What does it look like? And what should it be for you? It takes many hours. It requires sustained persistence, often several attempts of a refined nature to be able to get the better of something or to develop or to go from A to B. And you might not go straight from A to B. There could be lots of little jumps in between. And it's something where you will self-evaluate and you will also have other people evaluating you. So in your context, at higher education, in terms of independent study, you will try and make sense or critically analyse a concept, and then you may discuss this with a lecturer. Feedback. In the football world, that could be coaches, it could be peers. Who are the experts? We've got some more here, and we've changed. Manchester United, Ferrari. Expertise can relate to an organisation. Others that spring to mind, companies such as Google, Facebook, Amazon. High-performing companies, Nike. I recently read the autobiography of Phil, forgotten his second name, the owner and founder of Nike. And I was speaking to one of the lecturers earlier who's recently read Gary Neville's autobiography. It's actually identical. The behaviours of the owner and founder of Nike, identical to him. And I've also found through my research, if I was to pick up Rafa Nadal's book, and I've read that, it's identical. The behaviours pretty much mirror each other. So these are the kind of people that we're talking about. Can we all get there? Some of us can. Some would argue anybody can, if you commit to it. But what you can do throughout your life, by following the protocols that these people have to get there, you will improve. You will get better at whatever it is you want to be. That could be better at your job, it could be being a better human being, it could be a better mum, it could be a better dad. Anything. The method. So I'm going to give you a little bit about my research for 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to go into some examples of sort of how this works and what these people are doing in the real world. So you can take away 5 or 6 things where you can actually start to apply this and practice it in your own lives. The theses and the papers are of a qualitative nature, retrospective interviews. And I interviewed players and coaches from Manchester United. Several times, a couple of particular people, the interviews were repeated 3 times to confirm things or to get their interpretation of it as opposed to my interpretation, see if things match. And it stretched out to around about 25-30 hours of interviews and transcripts altogether. And you're getting different perspectives of the lived experience of being in Manchester United. What's it like when you go in as a 12, 13-year-old? Who takes you there? How did you get there? Manchester United just didn't ring you up one day and say, would you like to play for us? You've probably had an environment within your family, your friends, your neighbourhood, your school before this. I'm interested in all that. So semi-structured, pretty much free-flowing interviews, trying to get them to talk. So when I'm saying 25, 30 hours, 95% of it is them talking. You're looking at facilitating these people, letting them free up and tell you about their life. I was reasonably fortunate because I had been in the football world myself and I'd gone back in working as a coach. So I had, from a researcher's perspective, what they call an insider perspective. So these people opened up probably a little more than they would do to standard researchers, and it allowed us to also discuss certain concepts in greater depth because I'd lived them myself to a lesser level. So that was one of the great advantages of what I did. Literature. There's a lot of literature. I've got 2 slides here and 2 particular sports. One is football and one is golf. We can read and we can read forever. We can read textbooks, we can read journals. We've now got online. This lecture will end up online, so we can dig into the world and find out what there is. There are 50 plus constructs there which would constitute an elite performer in football. But my question and my interviews are based around this literature because they're just words. They don't really mean anything to me, and they probably don't mean a great deal to you right now. What do they look like? A defined role. What's a defined role? So you ask a player, what's a defined role? What is your role, Gary Neville, as I write back at Manchester United as a human being? And they'll start to elaborate. That means getting to the training ground at this time. That means conducting your life in this way. That means sleeping at these particular times. That means resting. That means talking about these particular things. And they'll elaborate. And what I got, ultimately, is extended commentary, or as you will call it, data, on all these concepts within the football world. And therefore the originality of it is an expertise theory, totally context relative to serial winning European international football. So that's the method. And then I looked at other sports. This one was golf. And you find similar but different. And the reason it's important to put that up there, because when Ericsson proposed his theories of 10,000 hours and of deliberate practice, at a later stage, probably sort of early 2000s, around about 2003, as more researchers got interested in this, because humans have got this sort of insatiable ability to want to perform, to want to be the best they can be, he said it's important that each and every domain is studied on its own individual merit, because there'll be slight nuances. So if there are 7 things here that aren't on the other one, if I was to follow that to be a golfer, I'm going to fall short of the golfer who's following the golf-specific one. Likewise, if I'm a fighter pilot following that, I will fall short. Hence the extended literature. So there's absolutely tons of papers out there on expertise. But if you're interested in the domain, they are good and interesting reading. What came out of it? I ended up with a theory, and as I say, there are 2 papers out there at the minute. One is talent development and serial winning, and the other one is a case study of Gary Neville. Gary in particular, because he was the person, no surprise to you, now you see him on Sky Sports, he actually talked the most out of all the interviewees. I remember interviewing, it was actually in his house, and he was running around the house at one point, sort of describing training. He sort of, well, you've got to get close to a player, and it was fantastic for the interview. He was actually living the experience while he's describing it. But a top-class guy and a great interviewee who has contributed to furthering this field of research a great deal. This is what I came up with. A model. 5 stages. Romance, elementary educational, advanced educational, graduation, and evolutionary excellence. And that's a football-specific development of, there are talent development models out there. You might be familiar with people such as Coates, Bloom, and they're generic to sports and sports participation. We now have one context relative to football. Each one of those, romance there, the first one, then breaks again. And it's got several constructs around it. Elementary, educational, breaks again. And as we go through all 5, ultimately there are 50 components identified, which one would suggest that a player has to live or conform to or go through in a 10-year period, or maybe longer, to be able to get in the first team of a team such as Manchester United. That's extensive. It'd take me all week to go through that, so we'll pick odd ones and then we'll get into some of the live examples. Deliberate play in the romance stage. What is that? That is a child, in this particular case, who would have an interest in football. They would play within the neighbourhood, with the family, with the friends, but they'd be quite unconsciously deliberate about it. So what they might do, if there's 5 of them playing, a character who's been in Manchester United might organise the teams, and he might be on the 2 against the 3. So he's deliberately created himself a challenge. And you'll find that they do that throughout their life. And they don't know that they're doing this, even in the retrospective interview, but it comes out quite repeatedly. They are accidentally deliberate in everything that they do. The environment. Pretty much, I think all the people that I spoke to, they went to junior schools and secondary schools that were quite facilitative in terms of sports facilities, PE, and actual teachers. The PE teachers or teachers within the school were very encouraging towards these people participating in different things. And they played different sports: cricket, athletics, cross-country, snooker, believe it or not. But the environment that they were in facilitated this athletic development, and that's what it looks like in the romance stage. Social support, to choose another, that goes to the teachers that I've just mentioned, but the families. The families facilitate this. I've got a 4-year-old son. I've got a back garden. It's absolutely pristine. As he gets older, it will wreck it. There will probably be no grass on it whatsoever, but from a parent, that's social support. He wants to play football. He's probably going to destroy my flowers. The washing line will get knocked down every week. Who cares? He wants to play football. So that's what it looks like from a family perspective. And I don't force him to play football, by the way. I have witnesses here that he has been playing Lego for the last 2-3 years, and he's also a Star Wars addict. Moving on, elementary educational. This is where they enter the system, as we call it now, and in modern day this is the EPPP or the academy system for professional football. It's an organised structure under professional guidance. There are coaches there. So social support, we've looked at it in that context. What does it now look like in the system? This is coaches, peers, welfare officers, or potentially players older than you. You're an under 13. Within a club like that, they always had a system where you moved. It was quite free. If you were showing good ability at 13, you'd play for the 15s. But the 15s would support you. The players would test you and challenge you, but they would support you. They'd encourage you. You'd be welcomed into that dressing room. The coaches are supportive. It's not a dictatorial environment. How do you feel? Why do you feel? Assessment comes into it, but it's fairly informal. It's perhaps talking about their own game, their objectives of the game, and whether they manage to carry out the plan to play in particular match that they've just gone into, be that internally or going out to play against other teams in what was the Northwest region at the time. Enjoyment, that's key. And I think with some of the work that I do in academies these days, I think it's disappeared to a degree. But they have a fantastic time there. And you still see that. If you walk around Manchester United's training ground, people have got smiles on their faces and the players are enjoying themselves. It is fun. And again, we can manipulate this, and I've got examples as we go further through. Advanced educational. Now, what you'll notice, some of the themes are still there. They repeat themselves through the stages, but they change. Context relative. Enjoyment's not the same for an 8-year-old as it is for a 14-year-old. Neither is social support. Tactical awareness, that's probably now coming for the first time at 16 to 18. And in the modern system, it's probably earlier. That is an understanding of you in time and space, in position, on a pitch, being able to carry out a role, a duty, for your team with the ball and without the ball, and also be able to monitor opponents' movements, etc. So that type of thing is coming in there. We'll move on to graduation. This is a developing first team player. One of the key things that you see here, there's less than there is in these learning stages, because hopefully by now they've soaked all this up, and to facilitate performance you've got to free them up. You've got to let them go. If they're going to go into that first team environment and get out and go and play on Old Trafford in front of 70,000, you've got to release that pressure a little bit in terms of the thought processes and the duties. So there is less there. There's a professional focus. Cognitive deliberate practice, I will allude to that as we go further on. And you're now making this transition. You've played for the first team, and I remember one particular player saying, you're not really a first team player till you're 24, 25 years old. And he didn't class himself as a first team player until he'd made 150 appearances. Now you look at sort of modern day, there are players who class themselves as first team players or say, I am a professional, I play for Manchester City, etc., who are earning vast amounts of money, who've made no appearances. They're out on loan in the Championship or wherever. But their attitude is, I am a footballer. And the interesting thing out of this organisation, they were still on edge up to 150 appearances before they got any comfort. And then evolutionary excellence. To be that professional footballer, to be that particular person who's played 150, 200, 250 games, won Premier Leagues, won Champions Leagues, played in cup finals. What does that look like? How do they exist and how do they maintain it? There's a big difference between these people. Certain clubs, they win and they don't win again. And there's more of those. There are more Leicester Cities than there are Manchester Uniteds across the world and across different sports. It's very difficult to repeat this thing. And if you think about it, that journey to get there is 10, 11 years. And sometimes if people win, they think, whew, done it. And they switch off and relax. But what I found in this organisation, they don't. So, looking back at what I've given you and the two sort of literature reviews, if you will, theoretically what I found in football and golf, the ingredients, there's 48 in one, 52 in another, and 50. It's pretty much the same, but there's a lot to get through. This goes back to the mushroom soup. There isn't actually a right or wrong, because the players that were in Manchester United, they didn't all follow the same trajectory. Now, if you look at, I've just randomly off the internet taken 2 recipes for mushroom soup off who I presume are 2 celebrity chefs, because they came up fairly early on Google, Jamie Oliver and James Tanner. They're different. There are some things that are the same, some things in different quantities, but they're different. And if you think of that as an analogy, those of you that are going to be coaches, sports scientists, psychologists, welfare officers, or even teachers, there isn't a right or wrong. But going back to these, the more of these that you can get in context relative measured doses as and when you see fit to put them in to your particular subjects, the higher the likelihood of you ending up with a lovely bowl of mushroom soup. Or a Manchester United player. And hopefully that breaks it down as well, because I'm talking a lot about one elite organisation in terms of what I said earlier. These habits are available for you in life. You're the chef. Talked about development. We're now going to talk about performance as well, and adopting a preparation and a training routine. That's a case study. That is Gary himself. After extensive hours, we identified that on a weekly, well not on a weekly, on a match-by-match basis, because they could be playing every 4 days, that is what he has to do before every match. He's got to rest, cognitive engagement and research. That is thinking about what he's going to do next. Why, how, where, when, who with. What are his own personal requirements? What are his own personal requirements within his unit and within the team? Any training specifics that he might need. There'll be sessions put on by Mike, who you've seen earlier, Alex Ferguson, Carlos Quiros, whoever. But these people also need their own little individual things, which he would plan. Imagery and visualization, social support, talking to his teammates, family, other people around him, adopting a process focus, and then ultimately a winning mentality. The one thing that they have to do, and what these people are driven towards doing, is winning. That is the goal, that is the objective. So, some applied scenarios. Environment. These are quotations directly from the transcripts and are also within the papers that you have access to. That is what the environment looked like for these people. They're surrounded by European Cup winners and World Cup winners. These people are actually involved in your development. The sessions were interesting, i.e. engaging. So if a lesson or a lecture or a training session's interesting, you've probably been to interesting and non-interesting sessions. The interesting ones go pretty quickly. The hour's gone before you know it. And they're competitive, particularly in the early years. Surrounded by European Cup winners and World Cup winners. In the modern day environment, look at 2 academies. That's what it looks like. Liverpool's academy, currently run by Steven Gerrard, although he went to Rangers a couple of days after I'd written this. And Nicky Butt, head of Manchester United's academy. Most, if not all, of the young people within those environments will know them, know who they are, will have an image of them playing football in their heads, will know what they've achieved, and both these guys have won the European Champions League. What tends to happen when you populate an environment with these type of people is the environment steps up a gear. Your guys, interestingly enough, the academy people, I noticed have got catapult system on the heart rate monitors. I will guarantee that the session that they do is more intense now, because Mike Phelan is there, than any that they've done with their coaches over the last 2 years. And we find this regular. We work in grassroots football and we go out to certain clubs, and within 20 minutes the coaches are, they've never done this. And we haven't actually coached them, we've just set them off in free play and they're off and running. But because you've got this sort of respected figurehead within the environment, everything goes up a gear. And there are enough of these people around in sport. It doesn't have to be football. I was at a seminar the other week with former England GB hockey captain Kate Richardson-Walsh, who's now coaching. She's nervous about being a coach because she's learning. But I bet when she starts coaching, that environment goes, boom, because she's a gold medal winner. And we can create these type of things. So that's one. Easy to do, an interesting thing that is within. Deliberate practice, goal setting and performance analysis. I'm going to change sports now. I've also worked in golf. And I once had a European Tour professional golfer came to me. I would like to work with you, I want to improve. What do you want to do? I want to get better. What does better look like? I'm not sure, I want to win things. What do you want to win? I don't know. Right, well we need to get a little more detail here. How does golf work? You ascertain that if you get in the top 50 rankings, world rankings in golf, you get instant access to all the majors, which is the Open, the Masters, World Golf Championships, etc. And you pretty much, you can choose your tournament schedule. You can pick the bigger and the better ones and the ones where there's a bigger prize pot. But golf is a meritocracy. No one's picking the team. There are 140, 150 people in every tournament and you all start on a level playing field. Anyone can win it. So, to a degree, his destiny is in his own hands. So we took some data. He's the player, and these are a few key things from golf. Driving accuracy, GIR is greens in regulation. Putts per GIR, that's mean how many putts he's taken if he's actually hit the green in regulation. Sand saves, that's getting in the hole in 2 shots from the bunker. Up and down is the same scenario, but from the rough or the grass, not the bunker. This is where he sat in the world. If we go down there, player A, his rank was 48, 189, 156, 149, 152, and he wants to be in the top 50. Straight away, we know that we're quite a distance away. So we then get metrics of the top 10, the top 20, and the top 50. So if we look at up and down, my particular player has a 51% chance of getting up and down. That skill has got to get to 60.4 for him to get in the top 50 in the world. I've taken 5 metrics here, but what I would do is repeat that across his entire performance. So I could end up with 20, 25 metrics over time. You wouldn't start like that. You would start a typical intervention with probably 3 or 4 to get the concept. Goal setting. Goal setting goes into deliberate practice. So what we then do, we take these particular things and start to measure them in practice and make the practice context relative to a golfing situation or scenario. So if we look at sand saves, he's 149, 45, he's got to get to 70. That's quite a big jump he's got to make. If we look at the top left, that is sand saves, that is bunkers. On the left-hand side, you have the distance from the hole. So he's taking the shot out of the bunker, and that's how far away he is from the hole, 2 feet, 4 feet, 6, etc. And he plays in blocks of 10, he's taking 10 shots. The objective is to flatten and get that graph down. And as you can see on the right-hand side there, the green one at the bottom, that's his 3rd attempt. So we're being reasonably successful here, but what is apparent is quite erratic. It's up and down. But this is what we call deliberate practice. We have an objective when we start practicing at 10 o'clock, and we need to look like something different at 5 o'clock, let's say, when we finish, and that graph has to flatten. We repeat that graph over time and that particular text because we have to get from 51 to 60, sorry, sand saves from 45 to 70. So that's just basic data collection, recording and measurement, and that is what deliberate practice is. Now within that you've got feedback. I would film it on an iPad. He can watch the iPad back. No comments, I'll just let him look at it and he might decide, he might see something in his swing, his stance, his setup, his routine, and he'll alter things. So he's starting to self-refine, which goes into one of the other things in the constructs of elite performance. They are self-critical. They can make decisions for themselves and they will work it out. If they need a coach, fine. And sometimes a coach came and they would start to put in certain interventions to improve things. So that's what deliberate practice is. Without going through it all, because I'm conscious we've got around about 10 minutes left, but that is the concept of deliberate practice. There's a video there, and I will leave these slides with you because we probably won't have time to play it, but that's Ernie Els. He's won 67 tournaments throughout his life. That's 2 minutes of deliberate practice, and it is Ernie doing the putting, this one here, the putting spiral. So if you watch it, that is what you'll see. And he's on a European Tour green surrounded by other golfers, and ironically, he's won more than the rest and is behaving differently if you watch it. If we get time, we'll go back to it and we'll put it on at the end. Cognitive deliberate practice. Again, a quotation. This is a coach. He's actually talking to Nicky Butt here. And he'd say to Nicky, I want you to watch Brian Robson. You're going to replace Brian Robson, and I want you to watch his every movement. You won't enjoy the game like an ordinary supporter, but you'll get a lot more knowledge if you do it that way. You learn from watching the best players in the world. What players have a tendency to do is just sit in the stand, watch the game and talk about the goals after and what a fantastic game it was. What the coach is talking about here is break it down technically, physically, psychologically, tactically. So you watch that particular player and you're thinking about it. You're starting to live your game through their game. So if we take this into the modern day, let's say Kevin De Bruyne, arguably one of the best players in the Premier League now, technically. So I'm asking a midfielder to watch him. What's he doing? How does he receive the ball? Where does he receive it? Who does he get it off? Is his body open? Is his head up? Does he cushion it on the inside of his foot, outside of foot, or does he do both? Can he take balls in the air onto his feet? Does he take them in front of him? There's a lot of detail here. So you imagine going back to being Nicky Butt, watching Brian Robson, just in that box, he's got a lot of thinking and a lot of notes to make. Tactically, where does Kevin De Bruyne live on the pitch? Is he high? Is he deep? Is he left? Is he right? Or is he all the lot, which he probably is? And how does he get there? When does he get there? Which players does he get close to? And again, you can apply this to any sport. Thinking about it. Physically, is he strong? Does he stand tall? Does he walk tall? Does he run fast? Is there any difference in his physical performance with the ball and without the ball? Psychologically, we can't determine how he feels, but what we can determine is how he carries himself. How does he talk to his teammates? If he gets a bad pass, what does he do? Does he berate them or does he encourage them? Does he encourage them and add a little bit of instruction? I didn't want it at me, I wanted it in front of me. And I ended up putting this in as an intervention at several clubs. So we had players sat in the stand making notes. And then they would come to speak to the coaches. And what you find when you first get players in the stand making notes, they come with a sheet that's probably got around about 200 words in. After 3 to 4 months, they've got about 1,000 words. They then start to talk and express themselves more on the pitch. They start to take control of situations. They start to become better players. Ironically, I've not actually done any training. It's all cognitive, deliberate practice. They're actually thinking about the game. Language, mental imagery, always pick on the positives. Let's say it's Bex playing against player X. Player X, for the older people, happened to be Stuart Pearce. Early on, you don't say, Bex is going to kick lumps out of you. You'll turn around to Bex and say, every time you get the ball, pass and move. He'll be tired after half an hour. What you're telling him is, don't hang on to the ball because you're going to get smashed. Because that's what would have happened. But why tell him that? Give him a solution. Solution-focused language. And you find that the language that comes out of these elite environments, they might think, Bex is going to get smashed. But they're not going to tell him that. They will think of a way of reframing every instruction that goes around the environment and the dressing room. The manager and the positivity, they will tell you how to win every game. His team talks are positive and they will encourage you to try things. So he's giving ownership to the players. He's giving them a solution-focused medium of working, and it's driven towards winning the football match. Here, we've got a particular example of what you typically get in this type of club. This is playing against West Brom. We have notes here. It is all how to beat West Brom. There is nothing there in terms of West Brom have got this shape, that shape, they'll do this to you, or they'll hurt you here, there, and everywhere. West Brom have a consistent weakness with allowing players space to attack the box. Midfield players are slow, allow deep late runners to go past them and find space in the box unmarked. And if you now look to the left at the pictures, it's actually showing this. So it's giving evidence as well. It's not just words, you're using various learning or delivery scenarios to actually deliver these positive messages. And these are present in modern day coaching environments in various sports. Enjoyment. Anyone watch NFL, American football? Sometimes. That's Aaron Rodgers, quarterback for Green Bay Packers, I think. And in American football, the quarterback, arguably the most important person. He's the guy who has got control of the ball and will throw it forward for people to get a touchdown. But all the defensive unit is trying to get to this quarterback because they've got to get to him. They've got to sack him, basically, knock him over to stop him from throwing it. And this is taken from a documentary called All or Nothing. It's available on Amazon Prime, and it's 3 seasons following Arizona, LA Rams and Dallas Cowboys. Fantastic insight into elite performance and multidisciplinary teams. They showed videos of Rodgers. He's in the pocket, he's got the ball, and what Rodgers does, he escapes. Once the defence converges on him, he's a very mobile quarterback and he can roll left and right and still has the ability to throw the ball massive distances. So what they wanted to do is keep him in the pocket. As well as showing all this video footage of him in the pocket and how that benefits them, your athletes will get a lot of instructions throughout a week, but that's what we call a key instruction. The actual win in the game hinges on keeping him in the well. So within the performance analysis, they've created a video and put him in the well. The players will not forget that. And when you see them training and in the game, they're actually talking about the well and Rodgers doesn't get out of the well. So you can just use a little bit of humour and bring some enjoyment into what we're doing. Extended professional preparation. This is Gary Neville again, European Games. I never like watching selected clips or things by a coach. In most football clubs, coaches or analysts will break things down and there you go, Mr. Player, right back, full back, that's what you've got. He took ownership of it, he went beyond it. I don't want to see someone dribbling at me, that's obvious. I want to understand who gives him the ball, when they give it him, where they give it him, why, how. So these people are doing more, they're going beyond. Here, again, changing sport, but going back to the same documentary, that is an NFL player, Dallas Cowboys. See the paperwork in front of him, computer is on the screen, and in his hand, he has got what is driving that screen, he's doing his own research. He's probably been training all week, he's been coached, and he's also got unitary coaches. But what you find in particular in this environment, and with people at the very top, whatever sports they're in, they'll take ownership of their lives and what they're doing. Zone, flow state. People often talk about that athlete's done fantastic, he's in the zone. Ask Mike later, there was some footage of him there winning the Cup Winners' Cup in Barcelona 25 years ago. He actually can't remember anything about the game. And there are several athletes. I remember, I think it was Sally Gunnell when she won a gold medal. It was in the 80s, 400 metres hurdles. Can't remember anything about the race. Remember a particular golfer being interviewed after he'd won a major. Talk me through how you played 17. Can't remember it. Because they have this concentration that is here. It's in the here and now. And that is on the wall just outside Dallas Cowboys dressing room. The only thing that matters is what we do now. So for elite sports people, if your concentration is drifting forwards or backwards, you're thinking about what might happen in the next 10 minutes or what you had for your breakfast, whoever you're playing against has got the advantage over you. Evolutionary excellence. The top people are quite innovative. And ironically, when I started to do this research and wrote these theories, the first two clubs that I went into were Manchester United and Chelsea. And you'd write to certain clubs, let's say Aston Villa, Blackburn Rovers, West Brom, and sorry, no thanks, we're not interested. It's actually easier to get in at the top because they're of that nature. Back in the 80s, 90s at Manchester United, they had a Batak machine, which I saw at the entrance. No one would entertain using one of those 25 years ago. They had one. They used to have competitions on it. It was a fiercely competitive environment. What you see here is virtual reality. There are now systems where you can take a player and they can actually go in and relive the game. This is in at Manchester United on trial at the minute. It's not in any other football club in this country, to my knowledge to date. This is based out of a technology company in Manchester. That's what it looks like. That's just a normal person in his jeans with a headset on. But that's where they are. They're here. They're actually in that stadium. So if you're playing your next game at Barcelona, they can recreate that. They can take the data from Barcelona's last game and you can play against them. So you could theoretically be stood defending and Messi is running you, going left, right, up, down, dancing around with you with the ball at speed. And the big clubs or the elite athletes will buy into this type of thing early before other people. Visualization. A quote there. It's important that you're going into a game feeling like you've already played it. And that can apply to anything in life. If you're going to an exam feeling like you've already done it, you're going to a job interview feeling like you've already been there, your likelihood of success is far higher. Anyone ever said to you, you've done something in life, what would you do if you do it again? What would it be like to get a second chance? You will perform far better. So, to close and to facilitate that, we're going to go through a short exercise that will help you visualize. And this will be useful for anything and any aspect or anywhere you go in life. It'll take about 5 minutes. We're just 2 minutes over, but the next lot are coming in at 11. Is that okay?
Yeah, they're waiting downstairs already, but you go. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. You go.
Right. We'll go for it. We'll try and get through this in 3 minutes. Right. You've all got your own space. All I want you to do is just to relax and breathe in and out. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And just relax. And you can close your eyes. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And relax. And you can probably feel your pulse. You might be able to feel your pulse in your earlobes. You might be able to hear or feel your heart beating. But breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just for a second, I want you to picture something you're going into. It could be a sports performance if you're going to play football. If some of you are going for a job interview, you could picture that. But start to picture somewhere where you're going to go. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And be aware of your body, your heart beating, the hair on the back of your neck, maybe the goosebumps on your arms. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And what I now want you to imagine is a white light. There's a white light, very bright, shining white light on your toes. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. The white light is now going up your legs, up your shins, slowly towards your knees. The light's now going up towards your hips. And breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, and be aware of your heartbeat. And the white light is now going up your body, up your chest, towards your shoulders, and down each arm. It's now broken in two. There's a white light going down each arm towards your fingertips. Now bring it back towards your neck. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then the white light is going up your neck, up your chin. Be aware of your breathing, your heartbeat. And what I now want you to do is to think about that performance, that football match that you're going into, that job interview that you're going into. What does the room look like? What does the pitch look like? What strip are you wearing? What clothes are you wearing? And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just open your eyes. Normally, that could be a half an hour, 1 hour exercise, but the objective is to clear your mind. Visualization, to start to visualize performances. If you can get into that meditative state and get an empty head and start to visualize this, you'll get very visceral clarity in terms of what you're doing and where you're going. And if you can do that before you go, try it with a job interview. You'll probably all have a job interview. Where you're going? How do you get there? What's the interview room going to look like? Who's interviewing you? Is it a man? Is it a woman? What do they look like? Do your research. When you get there, you'll feel like you've already done it once. Right. That's it for me. Got through quite a lot, to be honest, in just over 50 minutes. Hope I didn't send anyone to sleep. Hope you took something from it. And thank you.
Okay, do you all want to make your way down to the
And being a boring old lecturer, if anyone wants any further reading, it's there.
Come on, get the references in there. Thank you, mate. That was excellent. Really good.
Cheers.
Very interesting. Thank you. Cheers. You need a weed? Good. Cheers. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Got your food order.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so,
That's interesting.
Yeah, so 3.
Is it mushroom soup?
It is. Yeah, there's mushroom soup on there. Look.
Thank you.
Simon? No, mate, do you listen?
Yeah, come in, yeah.
Yeah, come in, guys, come in. No, it's only 11. It's not even 11 o'clock yet.
Spoilt for choice here.
Spread yourselves out, guys, so you've got a little bit of space in between you. So you've got your own personal space.
Have a ticket.
Oh,
Yeah.
most important, yeah, just to keep,
Yeah, yeah.
put your name on top
Yeah,
of it.
well, I'm going to have to go for mushroom soup after that.
Spread yourselves out, guys. Don't sit directly next to each other. Have a little bit of personal space.
Can you just check, make
Spread
sure
yourself out.
I've got everyone.
Oh,
The only person I know I'm missing is Jim.
Why has he got involved?
I
Fantastic.
don't really know.
No,
Nathan was like pointing to him, and I just went after him, and I thought he meant that he wanted a menu. Cheers.
thank you very much.
No?
I checked with Nathan with that, but I don't know whether he's getting involved.
Oh, I thought he was quite. Maybe he just wanted his attention, not wanting lunch.
I was going to say we've got Neil's. Yeah, I think that is everyone's. We've got Mike's.
No, Nathan's got that. He's just getting his now
Okay.
that it's split. But what I said is that the first lot will be on the table at like 10 past.
Yeah, we'll be in there. We'll be in there. That's fine. That's fine.
10 past 12.
Yeah, on table. Sweet.
Yeah, wicked. Thank you very much. Can you spread yourselves out? Make sure that you don't sit directly next to one another, just so you got your own little space. That means stand up again.
You need an empty seat to your left and your right. There's a spare row. Yeah. Yeah. I'm all right on my own. If
You're gonna do it,
yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, if you just come and
Yeah.
reclaim me, then I get
We'll
some
come
dinner.
back over, yeah. Yeah, so you've made the order. Wicked.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that. See you in a bit. You want to record again?
Up to you. I wanted to just catch the beginning bit because I didn't turn that one on. So
Right.
you can roll it for 5 minutes if you like, and then
Right.
spin it off if you want.
Don't make any difference. I mean, I'll just keep it on. It pick up okay, yeah?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody back? Yeah. Full house. Right. Good fun out there? Yeah, not sure. What the players like? Has he tired them out yet?
I'd say it's well better.
As long as they've enjoyed themselves. Right, slightly different, a sports psychology lecture. My name is David Horrocks. I work at University College of Football Business, which is a football-specific university based at Wembley and at Etihad in Manchester. And we deliver degrees and master's education in football-related higher education topics, such as football business and management, sports coaching, performance analysis, sports psychology, that type of thing. So, reason I'm telling you that, I actually live in your world. I am a lecturer as well. I work in a university, and I have studied, and I still study. So I'm familiar with who you are, what your lives are, and what you're going through. But we are going to hopefully liven this lecture up. There is some theory at the front, and we're going to take you into the real world of sport. I've worked in professional sport at several football clubs across the Premier League, worked for governing bodies such as the Premier League, the FA, and also deliver on qualifications such as the UEFA Pro licence. Worked in golf on the European USPGA and South African professional tours with various golfers in tournament situations and tournament preparation. So got quite a varied background. Sports psychology, that is what it's about. That's what I am, that's what I do, that's what my degree, master's and PhD theses are in. And I'm interested in performance. Primarily, expert performance, what performance is like at the very top. Sports psychology often associated with the existential human being and welfare, how we feel, our current state. Yes, that is very important. And to get to the top, you often find that these people are surrounded by good support networks, good families, good friends, and live in good, healthy environments. There are cases of people who aren't experiencing that, and some come to the forefront and they're in the media at this point in time. They're well supported in professional sport. The cases are increasing slightly, but they are minimal given the context of the entire population. But that goes back to the fact that it is important that we are looked after from start to finish, whatever the age of the athlete or prospective athlete may be. So today is about being the best that you can be. And doing that is a bit like making mushroom soup, believe it or not. And that will become clear if mushroom soup can possibly ever become clear. We will try and make it clear. Well, that's what today is about. Who are the best? Obviously, today's sort of football-centric, and that's my background, but that can apply to any domain. That can apply to technology, to business, to being creative, inventing things. Steve Jobs, founder, owner, CEO of Apple. Other sports, tennis, Roger Federer. Business, Karen Brady. Music, Beyonce. They've all got to the top, the very top of what they're doing. So that's what we're talking about. Now, you might sort of ask the question, are we all going to get to the top? Some of you might. Anybody possibly can in various domains. But what you can do by sort of taking lessons and examples from these people and their lives is actually be the best that you can be. If you take a slice of something from today, you will be better. So my particular research interests, where did I start? What did I do? I'm a failed footballer. I went through school playing at town team level, county level, school level, local representative level, trials in several clubs, played at youth team and reserve team level. Never broke through, never got a full-time contract, and didn't make it as a footballer. A lot of my friends did. Went on to play for different clubs. Some still play now, right throughout the leagues in England, and some fortunate enough to go on and play for Manchester United and win lots of things. Now, as a researcher, when I started to do my degree, I'm interested in understanding what's different between me and them. Why did they go that way and why did I go the other way? And as I progress in life and I become a coach or a psychologist, what can I learn from that to now put into the next batch of people that are coming through? That could be you as students, going wherever you may wish to go in life, or it could be prospective football players. I was also interested in the environment. That's Manchester United's training ground, Carrington, the academy. The plant, the machinery, the people, the existence of being and living in there. What does it like? What is it like? How do people behave? How do they conduct themselves? How do you survive in there? So that's what I'm interested in. Some theory. What is expertise? It's high-level performance. It's being the best in a given domain, consistently belonging to an elite peer group, internationally recognised achievement, and you display a range of skills, habits, behaviours that are beyond the ordinary. You're separated from the rest, really, on a consistent basis. So to bring that into context with football, there are people that compete at elite level, and there are people that are experts and persistently compete and win at elite level. So not everyone, in my particular theory, who plays in the Premier League is an expert. Because some people win it. Some people win it more than once. Some people go on from winning it and then win the Champions League as well. And there's differences as we drop down in consistent behaviours. The other part of this theory is deliberate practice. This is a conscious, goal-directed activity where a measure or attainment standard is being sought persistently. So therefore, to bring that into your world, if you go into a lesson, you go into a coaching session, or you go to a scenario, if that lesson is 2 hours long, 10 till 12, you need to look different at 12 o'clock compared to what you did at 10 o'clock when you walked in that room. You have to develop. And these people do that persistently. The other option is you actually go to all your lessons, all your coaching sessions over 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. You do the same thing day in, day out. You end up rather mediocre. You're probably above the majority of the population, certainly if you're in higher education, simply because of where you have got to at a point. But to push on, you've got to change every day. So theoretically, if you think about it, probably from year 10 in school, going through college to going to university, you're a different person, aren't you? Going back on that timeline, you've got to continue that if you wish to succeed in life. It takes hours, it requires sustained persistence, and often consists of several attempts to master something. It can be quite painful, can learning and developing, and arguably gets more painful the higher the goal you're trying to achieve. It involves self-monitoring and monitoring by others and feedback. You can take self-feedback, you do an assignment, you get feedback from your lecturer. You either read it or you don't. Some people do, some don't. The ones that do probably then go and actually ask questions and progress, and the next assignment is better. It's the same in the football world. You perform well, you can still ask questions, you can still get feedback. You won a game 1-0, why didn't you win it 4-0? Why was the game tight? Why was it edgy? You lost it, why did you lose it? And look at that yourself, and also speak to coaches, educators around you to facilitate that. Going back to the experts and who are they, this is slightly different pictures. It can be different domains, it can be male, female, but for RA Manchester United, it can be an organisation. It can be in higher education, it could be Oxford, it could be Cambridge. That's the pinnacle, they're the experts. In business, it could be Google, it could be Facebook, it could be Amazon, it could be Microsoft. But what you find in all these types of organisations or people are similar behaviours. My particular research, the method is a qualitative study and theses, i.e. I spent a lot of time, probably 25 to 30 hours, interviewing people from Manchester United, coaches, players, managers, and even parents of players within that football club, finding out what they actually do to exist in that environment and continually be successful and progress and win and win and win again and again over a 25-year period, which is the lifespan of the subjects that were involved in the study. Repeated interviews, i.e. you conduct an interview, you go away, you transcribe it, you try and make sense of it, you then actually go back to the person. Gary Neville's one of the particular subjects. Right, Gary, this is what I think about what you've said. What do you think? And he might change some of it because they interpret it as do you interpret it. And by going through that process, you generate a theory of exactly how you become an expert. Looked at literature. There's two slides here. One's football, one's golf. If you're to do all the academic work and the reading, which is looking at journals, looking at textbooks, they'll tell you this is how you become an expert. Experts engage in self-talk. They are extrinsically motivated. They review things. Going back to the other one, they suffer trauma. But these are just words. What do they mean? What does it look like? What does trauma look like in a football club? And there's two different ones here. That's football, that's golf. They're slightly different. You've got to look at all these type of things before you interview these people, because you've got to make sense of this context and take it into the football world. What I'm interested in is what makes a footballing expert. Going through that process, ultimately I came up with a theory of passing through Manchester United's system, which is the most successful in this country in terms of producing football players for the first team, and then first teamers going on to actually win things domestically and internationally. 5 stages: romance, elementary educational, advanced educational, graduation, and evolutionary excellence. Again, at this point, just words. What do they mean? Dig into them. Romance, elementary, educational. Each one has quite a lot of subsections within it. And that's a particular age. I think that one is 8 till 11. That one's about 11 till 15. And it goes right through the trajectory. 16 to 18. Graduation in modern day football, that's probably an 18 to 21-year-old. And then becoming a serial winning first team player that is winning trophies year after year. These are all these constructs that make up these particular stages of life. Now, to go through all that will clearly take me forever, so we'll just pick the odd one. Deliberate play. What does that look like in the romance stage? That is a young child, 8, 9, 10 years old, interested in a sport. In this particular context, it's football. They play out in their neighbourhood, just like most kids would have done, in the park playing football. However, the difference, they were deliberate in what they did. And what I mean by that, if they went to the park and there were 7 of them, the person who got through to Manchester United say, well, let's have a match, we'll pick some teams, and he'd be on the 3 against the 4. They'd challenge themselves. They don't know they're doing this, but when you're interviewing them and you're asking them about how they played as children, they're always challenging themselves. If there's 3, they'd be the 1 against the 2. If their mates weren't playing out and they were 11 years old, but the 15-year-olds were, they'd go and play with them. So there's a deliberateness in what they're doing. They're going out of the comfort zone unconsciously, and they're not being driven there. It's just happening within them. Their intrinsic desire takes them there. Find that in all of them.